Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This week's video covers August 24th through the 30th. So this week's video that I'm bringing to you is all of that last full week of August as we are finishing up the Every Bit Counts challenge. So Adam and I are starting off our week. We decided to come here to the garden to see if there was any produce that we could pick to add to recipes to our canning projects for this week. Hi, my name is Sonia. I'm a homeschooling, homesteading, spirit-filled, Torah-keeping mother of 10, and you are watching IHN Homestead. Colossians 3:17 states, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him." So in this garden this year, I planted a few good winter storage squashes. I planted those are kind of like the Hubbard squashes. They almost are very similar to the banana squashes. These ones are, your basic summer squash, and I also planted some trombone squash. I'll show you those later. But I decided in this garden that the main thing I was going to focus on was storage squashes that I can use in soups and stews for in the winter. When we got home, I decided to get all this dill out of my kitchen window. I've had it hanging up for a really long time. It was dill that I really couldn't use too much because it had mostly gone to seed. So I thought to let it dry out and then I would just store the seeds. So I snipped off the heads, put them in this container here, and just shook as much as I could to see if I couldn't get all those seeds to drop. And it didn't work too bad. I was going to try to do just, a paper bag or something and do it that way, but I didn't have one. And then I'm going to go through, I'm going to pull everything out, kind of shake it around to see if I can't get any more seeds to fall. And then I'm going to put these in a jar, and I figured I could either use them for recipes or I could use them next spring and see if I can't plant anymore and have a bigger dill harvest for next year. So I decided that I wanted to have some nice salves to have for over the winter. Maybe like a tallow salve with some, maybe some beeswax or something in it. My skin dries really bad over the winter, and I just don't like purchasing things from the store, especially when I go through their ingredients and you read them all and you're having to Google what they actually are because you have no idea. I really just don't like that kind of thing, especially when I'm applying it to my skin, applying it to my children's skin. I want to know that the things that I am putting on them are good for them and aren't going to possibly hurt them in the long run. So I went out to the garden. This is still Monday, and I picked some of our Echinacea. I looked up some things about Echinacea, and those can be good for multiple uses, not just one or two things. And that's what I like about herbs. They are good for multiple purposes, multiple things that you can do with them. And so I decided I was going to do some Echinacea. And then after I got the Echinacea picked, I am going to head over to my Comfrey plant. I know that Comfrey is really good for soothing. I know it's good for deep wound healing. You can also put it on burns. And so I decided to go over to my Comfrey plant and pick a few really nice big leaves of Comfrey. I'm not going to get to making my tallow salve, however you want to say it, to this week because I want to get these hung up in that back window. I want to get them dried out real nice. But I have been looking for some recipes, just very basic. I just like basic simplicity, things that work, that are straight to the point, that just do what I want them to do. And so I'm going to get these hung up and I'm going to let them dry for a week or two before I actually dive in to trying something out with them. And I will let you guys know how it turns out and how it works. I also decided all my cilantro went to seed. And so I decided to try to save some of those seeds as well. I do know that more than likely they will replant themselves in this, but I believe cilantro seeds, I believe they're also called coriander, and you can use those in different recipes as well. So I kind of did the same thing as what I did with the dill. I just got a little container and I was dropping the seed heads and pods into that container, kind of mushing them down in there. And then when I felt like I had enough, I went ahead and went through that, sifted through that, and just dumped out all the seeds into a little jar. Mary decided she wanted to save some seeds as well from her mammoth sunflowers that she had grown this year. And so she went up and she started pulling out some of her mammoth sunflower seeds. She really likes sunflowers. She thinks they're very beautiful. And eventually we would like to have sunflowers just all over the house. But that is what that head of sunflower seeds looked like. It was nice and full, and so she got a nice amount of those sunflower seeds out and to save, to store over the winter, and again to plant next year. So I'll be really interested to see what she does with them. She actually this last year planted mammoth sunflowers and teddy bear sunflowers, and she sold them at our local flea market, and many people really enjoyed purchasing the flowers from her. The next thing that I thought we would do this day is I have these 55-gallon drums that we had cut in half and set up in front of the house, and we filled with a lot of manure and compost a year or so ago. And the kids decided to help me get all these refilled and all the dead plants and stuff that wasn't growing well out. And so that's what we're doing right here. The kids are bringing me bucket loads of some compost that we are going to fill these up with to get them ready for winter. We ended up planting our one raspberry bush here. This raspberry bush actually died in the bucket, and I decided to keep it just in case, and it came back to life, so I was very, very happy. So now we have 3 raspberry bushes, and I'm super excited. But yes, even Rebecca was bringing up buckets of compost and helping me, and we were getting a kick out of her hair because it was a mess, but oh well, she's still cute, and it doesn't bother her one bit. But there's Adam Man being his goofy self, and the kids, actually Adam and Emily, decided to start racing to see who could get their compost to me the fastest. And so they made a really good game out of it, but we cleaned out, I would call them flower beds. They're kind of more like flower half 55-gallon drum bucket beds. Anyways, sorry. And then Norman came out to play as well. He really likes playing outside and being with the kids. So he came to sit with Mommy as these 2 Runions kept racing and playing and making a mess everywhere. But you know what? The kids like to help. I enjoy having their help. And sometimes stuff like this happens. Messes. But that's what makes life fun. Messes make life fun. And the kids enjoy it. I enjoy it. And they just have a really good time. So when we got back inside, this is where all the herbs went and seeds. And then we had gotten that comfrey hung up. That little bit of echinacea hung up. And we are about to get ready to start our next project. So I did not do any canning on Tuesday. Quite frankly, I did not have any produce to can or anything like that to put away to reserve. So Tuesday nights, we have a community prayer meeting that we host here at our home. And so after that prayer meeting, we went to a friend of mine's and picked up a couple bushels of tomatoes, some watermelons, a big old bushel of green beans, and some corn, and brought those home so Wednesday morning I could get straight to work. And my part, as you can see, came in for my All-American pressure canner. I was very excited. We got the plug in. You could see that first initial plug, you could see where it was broken. This plug is beautiful and brand new. And it even comes with some nice little instructions. Very basic, very simple. It came in rather quickly. I was very happy. Didn't have any issues with the company. And so here it is. And guess what? My canner is back in commission. Woohoo! I was so happy because now I can can 21 quarts at a time instead of only 7 quarts at a time. And when you have a large family, for me personally, I like that. I like being able just to get everything done in the canner and going. I know some people like doing small amounts at a time, just whatever they can throw in works for them. I don't mind doing that if it's something I can water bath, but when I'm doing all the work with the pressure canner, I prefer the big batches for the pressure canner. I don't mind doing small batches here and there though if I'm just doing a water bath. So I had some errands to run, but I decided to get the kids started and we are going to get some beans popping. I saw a meme a couple years ago that showed a grandmother on the front porch with her grandchildren, and it said, "This is what we call Snapchat." Ha ha ha. But so my kids kind of joke around with me about that, about how we were going to sit down and do Snapchat with each other. But when I got home, my kids had gotten quite a bit of beans done, and they gave me this first batch to work with. So I got these green beans washed and cleaned, and I'm getting them in the jars. And the kids were absolutely flabbergasted that all those beans that were in that canner, Mary's like, what? And was only enough to fill 3 jars. And so they realized, oh, wow, we need a lot of beans to do all this canning. A couple years ago, I had about 60 some quart jars of green beans, and that was so nice because we could add them to soup, stews, or we could have them on just as a side dish with a dinner or lunch. And I really enjoyed that. And fresh canned green beans, I think, are absolutely delicious. I love them very much. Last year, we did not have a good green bean harvest, and this year, the green beans that I planted, they just didn't make good contact with the soil. That soil at the garden was very clay-like, so we've got some work to do on it. And so I think I only had maybe 5 bushes grow up, and that was it. So all of my green beans are being outsourced from local farmers and friends from the farmers markets. And so I can get green beans down in my cellar for this winter. And I got my little peanut up here, Rebecca, eating the green beans out of the jars, but that's okay. That's just kind of what she does. And then Emily wanted to help me a little bit to put some green beans in, so she came up and helped me as well. But we are going to just get these ready to go as the kids keep popping. I think I actually caught up to them. I got the jars filled up and they were still popping beans, so I decided to get some mess picked up, and I am going to get another project started while they are still working on finishing the beans. And that project is going to be tomatoes. I think tomatoes is one of my favorite things to can, and I think it's because they are so simple. They're simple, they are versatile. You can do so much with tomatoes. You can can them whole. You can dice them. You can puree them and can them and just have a regular tomato. You can do stewed tomatoes. You can do tomatoes and peppers and onions. You can do spaghetti sauce, barbecue sauce, ketchup, tomato soup. There's so many things that you can do with tomatoes, and they're quick. It's just they're quick recipes. Sometimes it's just throwing them in a roaster and letting them go overnight. What I'm doing today is I am going to do stewed tomatoes. So I am going to fill up this stock pot full of tomatoes as far as I can go. And then I'm going to top it with some other vegetables. But then I noticed the kids were done. And so I decided to take a quick break and help them finish, because I thought it would be more productive if we could get all these green beans in the canner. And so while they were pressure canning, I could keep working on the tomatoes. So I took a quick break, helped them get the green beans ready for the canners. Peter was getting the water in the canners, and the canners all set up for Mommy in the other kitchen. And then they're going to come over here. We're going to get these lids on. We're going to get the rings on. And we are going to get these green beans pressure canned at 10 pounds of pressure for 25 minutes. Oh dear, Peter. And that is what they ended up turning out like when they were all done. But again, while they were canning, I was back doing the tomatoes again, trying to, I guess you can say, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, get a couple things done at the same time, try to redeem my time and be as productive as possible, because there's just so much in the house that I want to do. And it's not just canning. I want to be able to spend time with my kids. That was my daughter, Rebecca. She was dancing in the window and knocked the camera over. So sorry about that, but that's all right. And then she decided to come and stand next to me to spend some more time with Mommy. And then Peter is there in the background getting the mess of green beans picked up off the floor. I got my son Patrick home for this day, which isn't that often that he is home. We haven't fully started with school yet. We usually tend to start homeschool when the harvest starts to slow down, and so that'll be here within the next couple weeks. But to those tomatoes, I had added 2 jalapeno peppers, and then I am going to add these banana peppers from the garden. My son Peter was in the background trying to pretend to play a guitar, and I told him he wasn't doing it right. Mommy had to show him. He thought he got a kick out of that. That's all right. And so we're going to add the banana peppers to this, and also some green peppers. Some of the green peppers were from the garden. Some of them were from the Amish at the farmer's market. But either way, it's all the fresh produce. And I love this season when all this stuff is coming in, and gosh, my kitchen smells so good when I'm doing all these things. And then I remembered I forgot the onions, so I had to get the onions chopped up real quick and get those added. And I'm just going to let these cook down. And the next project I'm moving on to is I was wanting to try my hand at making a meal in a jar. I have always just canned everything individually. So I would can my broth, I would can my green beans, I would can regular dry beans, I would can my tomatoes or freeze my corn. I would do everything separate. But something new that I wanted to try to do this year was actually can a meal. And so I went out to my garden and I got some lemon balm. I did a little bit of research on lemon balm, and I guess lemon balm is just has so many good healing properties and anti-inflammatory properties. It's just really good for your system in general. And then I decided to pick some fennel. I planted fennel because I thought it would be fun. I've read just very little about it, but I decided to add the lemon balm and the fennel to this chicken to make a broth with. And so my tomatoes are cooking down, they're simmering down right now. I knew this wouldn't take much time, so I got this broth going with our chickens that my son butchered, and I started cooking that down. And by the time I was done with everything, guess what was ready? My stewed tomatoes with all those peppers and onions was ready to go. And I think this is still all before lunchtime. I can't fully remember because my weeks really kind of get a hold of me sometimes. But we started doing this so I could get these in the canner. My green beans were already done. The canners were already prepped and ready to go. And so we are going to get these stewed tomatoes in the canner. And I'm not quite sure how spicy these stewed tomatoes are going to be, but my family really enjoys a nice chili during the winter. We would probably have chili at least once a week during the winter, and so I'm going to be doing a lot with tomatoes so that we can have those chilies. I already canned some chili beans previously. That was something new that I did this year. And so I'm also going, like I said, I did these stewed tomatoes, and then I'm hoping to do more just tomato bases, just in general, to add to my chilies as well. So we're going to get all these lids and rings put on the jars, and we will get these in the canner. Again, I think tomatoes was quart size jars at 10 pounds of pressure for about 20-25 minutes, somewhere in there. And that's one of the things, like I said, I love about tomatoes is they are just so quick and so easy to do. And this is what all those tomatoes looked like when they were done. Now we also got to make time for some playtime to spend some time with the kids. Norman was pushing Peter around on his toy, and now we're moving on to the next day. We still had a whole bunch of tomatoes to do, and so I decided let's make some tomato soup. And we needed 28 pounds of tomato soup. Tomato soup. We needed 28 pounds of cut up tomatoes. And so Mary and Peter are learning to work the scale and read the numbers on the scale to make sure that they are getting enough. And what we're doing is we're doing them in 4-pound batches. And then once they hit 4 pounds, which Peter hit 4 pounds, see, they were kind of racing. It was whoever put the tomatoes in last and it hit 4 pounds, that was the person that won. And Peter said he won the first round. But after they get the tomatoes in there and they put those in the pan, Mary would go to the refrigerator and she would mark it on the refrigerator the first 4. And so that is what they did to keep track. And we know that 7 times 4 is 28. So she put a 4 on each day of the week to make sure that she had 7 4s. And so that is how she kept track of how much they were doing. And so they had a really good time doing this. They were racing each other. And it was, oh, yep, she remembers she had to tear out the scale. So while they were doing that, I got the rest of the tomato soup prepped. And so I put in some onion. I think it was about 4 to 5 cups worth of onion. that I put in here. And I actually think I ended up with a little bit more, but that's okay. And then there was a few tablespoons of sugar. If I could remember to, I'll make sure to put this recipe in the description box if anybody is interested. I believe I did oregano, basil, and bay leaves. And I made sure to count the bay leaves because when you're trying to find these in a big ol' pan of tomatoes, it can be quite tricky. We also did garlic, we did salt, and I did some peppercorns, which I wasn't too sure if the peppercorns would be a good idea, but it ended up working out. And I got all that added to those 28 pounds of tomatoes. So, and we'd let this sit overnight. Now, the next day, that broth was done. And so I'm going to try my hand at making some chicken soup. And so the first thing I did was I got all that chicken out and got it deboned and separated it out and pulled out, the different herbs and stuff that was in there. Remember, we put the lemon balm and we put the fennel in there. And so I did all the separation of the meat and the broth. Once I got that done, I pulled out another pan because I needed more room. And so I started straining out the broth because there was still some chicken and stuff at the bottom. Jacob came over and helped me. He picked up the that roasting pan insert for me and got the rest of that broth dumped for me. And so I don't know. I really love my kids. We work so well together as a team. And it just really blesses me just how much they want to be involved, how much they want to help. Yes, they do enjoy playing outside. My kids love going for bike rides and they love climbing trees and just they enjoy swinging in the backyard. They'll take the dogs for runs through the woods or through the fields next door. And so, yes, they have plenty of free time, I promise. It just, like I said, it really blesses me to see everything that they really enjoy doing with me in the kitchen. But they look forward to all the goodness, and they even think the kitchen smells good when I'm doing all this. But so what I did was I got all that chicken chopped up and I divided it in between. I believe I had 14 jars out. And then I went and dug out some carrots out of my refrigerator. These carrots were from the farmer's market. Then I had some organic carrots that I had purchased from the store that I needed to get used up. So I got those carrots chopped up in there. And then here in a minute, my little peanut decided to join me as well. So normally when I am peeling anything, Emily and Rebecca usually run, "Mommy, I help! Mommy, I help!" And so here is Rebecca peeling. And I really like it when she comes and helps Mommy peel. The only thing is she doesn't know when to stop peeling. So if I don't catch it in time, I will not have a carrot left over by the time she's done peeling the carrot. But that's okay. That's all right. And now look at this. She's even trying to clean up her mess. She was being such a sweetheart. So, but yes, okay. I'm back to what I was saying. I am getting all those carrots in there. So I got my chicken in there. I got my carrots in there. And now we're going to get the celery in there. We're going to get the celery washed. And I'm going to put the whole thing of celery. And I'm going to get and divide that in between all the different jars. And she's eating my celery. Anyways, so I had to cut off a piece for her. But when I think of a chicken soup, my first thought always goes to chicken noodle soup. And so I was trying to think to myself, what all would I want in a chicken soup? Well, it's, of course, the chicken, the carrots, the celery, and the onions. And so that was my main thing that I did with this soup, is I just did the basics, the chicken, the carrots, the celery, and the onions. And then poor little Rebecca had to leave because the onion was getting to her eyes and she started crying. So, but I got all these onions in here, and then I topped everything off with the chicken broth that I had made, and added some salt, and we ended up getting these in the canner. Now, I know one of the ladies that I would watch on YouTube here, she made a comment that if you are doing a vegetable soup with meat, but less than half the jar had the meat in it, that you could still can it for the allotted time as what a vegetable canning would be. But I looked up a few different things, and I was finding contradictions, a lot of contradictions on how long that this needed to can for. So I think I went ahead and did it for the full 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure because it had the meat in it. And then all the extra broth that I had left over, I got another, I think, 3.5 quart jars of chicken broth. So we're going to get all this cleaned up, get any of that broth that might have spilt along the edges there wiped up, and get our lids on. We're going to get our rings on, and we are going to get this in the canner. And yes, like I said, I ended up doing it for 90 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure in my canners. And I was very happy. I thought they looked great. Now this is what all that tomato soup goodness looked like. It was the next day, and I am going to get this ready to get processed in the canner. First thing I need to do is find all those lovely little bay leaves that are hiding somewhere in this soup. And like I said, this is why I count my bay leaves, because it took me a little bit of time to find all these little guys. But I knew I had 8. I had 8 bay leaves hiding in this tomato soup somewhere. And so I wanted to make sure I got all those pulled out before I went on to any more work that I needed to get done. And I did. That was 7. Well, yeah, one more. I only had one more to find, and I found it. And so I could move on to the next task. And I decided that I was just going to immersion blend this. And I knew that that's usually a messy task. So I wanted to make sure I got my apron on. I know some people will put this through a type of sieve or something to remove the skins and the seeds and all that good stuff. I don't really mind, and I don't think my children mind either, the seeds and such that are left in there. The last year we made tomato soup, everybody seemed to really enjoy it. They didn't mind the seeds and such. So when I run the immersion blender in this, I just try to blend it down as much as possible. I guess I could also do small batches in, my blender, but then that's just another dish that needs to be washed. So if I can keep it simple, keep it basic, but still be effective in my work, that's what I like to do. So I got this all blended up and ready to go, and we will get it processed in the canner. And guess what? We went to the farmer's market, and we had gotten more corn, and we had gotten more green beans. And so the kids are behind me doing their tasks, getting this stuff preserved and ready to go. And if you notice, yes, Mary is wearing long sleeves. You want to know why? Because Mother Nature, for some reason this last week, I think her hormones might have been off balance, because we had 40-degree mornings in August. And I wasn't a very happy camper. I mean, look, we got Adam in a sweatshirt, Peter in a flannel, Rebecca's got long leggings on because everybody was cold that morning. Oh my goodness. Anyways, I'm really hoping the weather warms back up because I am not ready. It was August, you guys. I was not ready to have cold weather yet. I, kind of figured the end of September, early October, the cooler weather, okay, that's fine. But not in August. Please, not in August. Anyways, so we're going to get all this tomato soup in the jars and get it ready to be canned. Oh, and Rebecca was just wanting some snuggle time with mommy, so I was trying to get my work done so her and I could go and sit together and spend some time together. And she kept telling me, Mommy, it smells so good, and she kept sniffing the soup going, mmm. But yeah, see, it's good till the last drop. I didn't get a full quart jar with this little bit that was left over, but it was still enough for me to want to put it in the canner and get it down in my cellar. And again, tomatoes are super easy to can, especially a pressure can. It does not take a lot of time. I was able to get all these quart jars into one canner in my All-American canner. And those beans, I put those that you saw the kids working on, we got those in the smaller 7-quart canner. and we were able to get everything processed and good to go on this day. And so I think that's probably what you're going to be seeing me do a lot over the next couple weeks, is we are going to be doing a lot of different things with tomatoes. I have a spaghetti sauce recipe that my family absolutely loves. I found it about 3 years ago online. I am hoping to have enough tomatoes to be able to make that again this year. And I actually think I want to do a couple roasting pans of that. But anyways, back to this. I got all those rims cleaned off. We're going to get these lids and rings on the jars. And like I said, we'll get it over to the canner and get them processed. 10 pounds of pressure, again, for about 20-25 minutes. And that's all that these tomatoes take. And something that I like to do this winter, use them during our homeschool days just for a very quick and basic lunch for the kids, just to warm up their bellies and get them some good nutritious food. But this is what all that first batch of stuff looked like. This was those stewed tomatoes, that was the chicken soup and the broth, and the first set of green beans that we went through. I had to get all this stuff downstairs because I was running out of room to keep canning. And like I said, I like having a clean surface when I'm canning. So I went through and I washed all these jars off, washed and dried them, made sure all the rings were off, that all the seals were good, so I could get these down in my cellar. I noticed a couple times last year when I did not wash my jars good enough, you can see they will form a little bit of mold around the jars, especially if they've been in the cellar for quite some time. And I don't like that. Yes, the food on the inside is still good. I just don't like the way that looks. So I wanted to make sure I took the extra time to really clean all my jars, get them nice and labeled so I could get them down in the cellar for this winter. And I do very basic. I just kind of abbreviate my stuff before I put it down there. This is what all that tomato soup looked like. Again, it smelled delicious. I'm really looking forward to preparing this for the kids this winter. And then those were those extra bits of green beans. Well, you guys, that is it for this week's video. I really hope you got to enjoy the time that you spent with my family. Colossians 3:17 states, "And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him." If you haven't yet liked or subscribed to our channel, please do so. It really blesses the kids and I when we see your comments pop up, and knowing that our videos are blessing you and your family. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, a blessed week, and I pray that the Lord blesses all that you put your hands to and that it may prosper in his name. Thank you, guys.